Today marks an anniversary. The first episode of the main Minecraft series by the Yogscast named Shadow of Israphel has turned 10 years old today. The series holds a special place in not only my heart, but possibly some of yours too. I would personally call it my favourite web series. The first episode currently has 18 million views in the original upload as of November 14, 2020. Some of you watching this may not understand what I'm talking about. You may want to know why I consider it my favourite web show. You may be asking, how did it begin? What's its story? Why did it end at part 42? And finally, will there ever be a part 43? Join me today as we answer these questions and maybe some more. Let's begin. On December 2nd, 2010 on the Blue's channel, the first video of Minecraft was uploaded, titled Minecraft Part 1, How to Survive the First Night. The video follows Simon and Lewis spawning into their new world and taking in the sights before they realised that night was falling and scrambled to build his shelter dubbed Simon's Shack in the title for Part 2. Once built, they get into the shack and the episode ends with a duo in a pitch black wooden box. For the next 27 days until the 29th of December, they uploaded a new episode of the series. In Part 3, the duo searches for coal and finds some in the cave, which later Lewis names the Yog Cave, and they set up a base there in Part 4. In Part 6, Simon and Lewis go exploring, but end up finding a mysterious tree, giving the episode its title, The Mysterious Tree, and most notably, a pyramid, a parkour challenge with the treasure at the end. To this day, it is unknown who built it, but most assume it was Israphel. The duo spends the entirety of Part 7 burning themselves to death in the pyramid multiple times over. They decide they need a bucket to be able to put themselves out, but as they went looking for iron, they ended up finding a dungeon. Once defeating the boss, they discover a couple buckets in the chests, which they take up to the pyramid, fill with water, then end up not having to use them. The treasures of the pyramid are revealed to us by Simon.
Oh my god, there's such treasure! You're not gonna believe it! Oh my goodness!
Really?
Such a bounty!
Tell me more.
Do you want me to just tell you?
Yes.
Okay, in the left chest, we have 17 torches!
17 torches? Wow.
17 torches. In the middle chest, we have 3 pieces of pork! Wow. And in the right chest, we have, drum roll, 4 eggs. 4 eggs.
In Part 17, after many constructions of their home and various spelunking missions, Simon and Lewis meet the pale-faced man, the one who was building the things on the ice sheet outside their house, including the pyramid. Although he evades their grasp, the duo managed to chase the man in Part 21. Now is a good time to mention his name is Israphel. Whilst trying to find Israphel, they turn up on a small town named Terravale, although Simon hears it as Terradale first. They meet Old Peculiar, Daisy Duke, and Reverend John. After a couple drinks with Old Peculiar in his inn, and helping out Daisy Duke and Reverend John, Daisy disappears. Simon, Lewis, and Old Peculiar soon discover Reverend John has turned, embracing the dark.
Ready. Hang on. Okay, I'm ready.
He's in the crypt. What's he doing? What's he doing? Bishop Mendip.
John?
Wilhelmina Olbers.
Oh god.
Ah! Oh god!
Talk to him. Tell
Oh
him.
god!
Baron Smedlington. We had no luck finding your Bible. What? My lord told me I would not see you again. Taste my holy blood. Oh, Jesus Christ!
He's gone mad! He's gone mad!
Oh, God.
Once Simon kills John, they discover a secret passage behind Israphel's grave. Down the passage was Israphel's secret castle. However, once they've defeated the zombie boss and creeper boss, Israphel disappears down the tunnel with Daisy. Down the tunnel was the portal that Simon and Lewis built in Part 16, and Peculiar suggests Daisy was taken through. After a short survival island series, Simon and Lewis fly back to the odd cave on a hot air balloon titled the Solano. However, they end up crashing on the beach. On board the ship before her crash was Skylord Lysander, a brand new character from Mistral City, Simon, Honeydew, Lewis, Zaphos, and Old Peculiar, who is seemingly now tainted by his time living in Terravale. They discovered that the odd cave had been destroyed, and they travel to Mistral City. In Mistral, they steal a record from Skylord Jasper and give it to Father Brayburn. Then, they get Fumblemore's magical cure-all to heal Old Peculiar.
Simon, I feel like we need a song to sing whilst digging. Do you have any ideas?
Possibly. It needs to be something. It needs to be something funny and sort of light-hearted, doesn't it?
Upbeat.
I'm a dwarf and I'm digging a hole, diggy diggy hole, diggy.
And then they start searching the mines for Old Peculiar's father's fate.
Son, if you are reading this, then I am dead. I have walked through the portal to seal it shut. Know that I died to protect this land from a terrible evil. In the nether is a spirit who would destroy the world. It must not be allowed into Minecraftia at any cost. If it somehow gets loose once again, you must vanquish it. My armour and blade are here. It falls to you and those that stand with you to save the world. K. Peculiar. Fight well, my son, and know that I love you.
When they leave the mines, they find out that Mistral City had been burnt to the ground. Underneath the Elysium, Skylord Lysander's house, was a sign which convinced Old Peculiar and the two heroes into thinking that Lysander was part of the cult of Israphel. They adventure into the crumbling ruin and defeat an undead Reverend John and an undead Granny Bacon, who we met previously and offered her bacon to Simon.
Would you?
Oh my goodness me.
Along the journey, they obtain a map fragment in the ruin. As they leave, they head through Skull Pass to Verrigan's Hold. They meet Old Peculiar at Verrigan's Hold, where they fix a breach in the wall and play some carnival games. When they show Templar Adathan, a new character, part of the Templars, a piece of paper they retrieved from Reverend John, he identifies it as a piece of Carpath's map.
Ooh, a big wall of text! How very interesting for our viewers.
The Tale of the Sands. 100 years ago, there was a summer that never ended. Raw heat parched the farmlands, and the wells ran dry. The people of Minecraft here began to die of hunger and thirst. Animals were blinded by blistering sand, blowing waist deep across the land. Led by a legendary hero, Verrigan, the people of Minecraft here fought back and built the wall to encase the sand and halt the spread of the desert. But a terrible ancient terror rose up from the sands and threatened to destroy everything. Verrigan Antioch and his son, Carpath Antioch, slew the evil monster and sealed it away under the desert. In the final battle, Verrigan was killed and Carpath gravely wounded. After recovery, Carpath founded the Crimson Cross and established the Templars in case the threat ever rose again. What happened next is still shrouded in mystery. Less than a month after his return, Carpath vanished without a trace and was never seen again. The Templars await his return.
To find the other 3 pieces, they needed to follow some clues. In the carnival's archery range, a hole appeared. The heroes ventured into the hole. They found a tunnel. At the end of their adventure in the tunnel, they found a new location named Barbecue Bay. The heroes overhear a conversation between a few new characters: Jock Fireblast, Angus Eyeless, and Grimjaw Slugface. Jock Fireblast and Grimjaw Slugface are arguing about who can make port in Barbecue Bay. Jock claims Slugface is bringing the taint of Israphel with him. Soon, Grimjaw Slugface fires his cannons at the bay, and Jock tells Simon and Lewis to go wake up Spackula Chuck, a dwarven zombie pirate, to ask him where the supplies are. Once they find the supplies, stacks of logs, the heroes repair a pillar holding up the top platform of the bay as the pirates fight between themselves. Once the pillar was repaired, Jock asks the heroes to take out Grimjaw, so Simon swims up to his boat and sets it alight with fire. After the ship burnt down, Grimjaw sets out to kill Simon and Lewis, but they swiftly take him out. When the battle concluded, Jock thanks the heroes. When Lewis asks of a map fragment, Jock laughs and asks to see the piece we already have. But when he saw the fragment, he tells us the fragment was tainted and he thinks that another fragment could be in Grimjaw Slugface's treasure hold. But when Simon asks where the treasure hold is, he tells them finding it won't be easy, as the dread pirate Norris is trying to find it already as they spoke. The dread pirate Norris was described by Jock Fireblast as a terrible, thieving woman. As our heroes sail to her ship, we get a glimpse of her name, Isabel Peculiar. Although at first she ignores the name Isabel, she soon responds as Lewis mentions Old Peculiar, and she lets them aboard. She tells us that her first mate has gone missing and leads us down to the waterway. Through the waterway and down to Scumbucket Island, they find a parasol which is quickly blown up by a creeper. They see a hole and they jump down. In the hole, they find a character named Pirate Tin Man, a robot pirate who can seemingly hear what Simon and Lewis are saying in real life. A sign on the wall reads, "Two shall make way, one will stand still." A sort of clue to the puzzle, where the heroes need to press 2 buttons at once. When the buttons are pressed, a hole opens underneath Lewis's feet. Down the hole, they find another puzzle. Once they've completed the various puzzles, including a music puzzle, a digging puzzle, a lava puzzle, and finally a maze, they make it to the treasure chest, where Tin Man is waiting for them. Where they expected to find a fragment, they find a button on a green labelled disc. When Tin Man plays the record, they discover that Jock Fireblast stole the map fragment from the chest. When the heroes leave the tomb through a sandy staircase, Lewis catches a glimpse of Israphel from behind a sand hill, and it starts raining. The heroes walk towards a giant dragon in the distance and lightning begins to strike. Lewis suggests taking shelter from the storm, and the trio run towards the tomb of Leparsi. As they arrive, Tin Man flees. A bunch of creepers appear on the first floor of the temple, and the heroes discover a sealed tomb of Leparsi. The heroes fend off the monsters and decide to walk back down the yellow road they saw when they left the treasure hold. When the road ends, they see Barbecue Bay in the distance. When they arrive, they find Isabel docked on Barbecue Bay with Tin Man, who tells Isabel that Jock took the map fragment from the treasure hold. Isabel tells us to search for Jock's ship, which operates as a submarine. In the ship, Jock tries to convince the heroes that he's innocent, but they soon discover a hellgate underneath his ship. He tries to pour lava on the heroes' heads as they go down a ladder, but they escape to the portal. They decide to enter the portal, but soon leave as nothing of interest is found. Simon decides to tunnel upwards past a dungeon full of zombies and up into the lake, where they discover Jock Fireblast has set Barbecue Bay on fire, quote unquote, just as he did to Mistral City. As our heroes climb to the top, The fire ends up going out of control, and the heroes have an epic battle with Jock Fire Blast, ending with Jock dying. Isabel calls for Simon and Lewis to join her on her ship. She thanks them for killing Jock, who she describes as a horrible fiend. She gives them the map fragment, which she says she found floating in the water as the bay caught fire, and she tells us her tale.
Before you leave, I would tell you my tale.
Okay.
You have spoken before of my long-lost brother, a knight peculiar. If you see him again, tell him that I am sorry. I never believed him when he spoke of Israphel, the pale-faced man. But now, with what I saw in Jock's eyes, I realize I have been blind to the truth. Our family has a sad history. When we were babes, our parents were taken from us. I was too young, but my brother remembers. He has told me many times what happened on that fateful night. A terrible evil abducted our mother, and shortly after, our father disappeared. We grew up under the care of a Dathan and the Templars, but when I was 16, I could stand it no longer. My brother was obsessed with finding Israphel, and one night I left. Many years have passed since then. I have stolen glowstone from the land of Zingen, and found golden hoards buried on the Tiki Isles. I have battled cursed priests and snapped the diamond teeth from the bones of dead dragons. But I have not escaped my legacy, it seems. It was a dark and stormy night, and I was sleeping awkwardly in my ship. Suddenly, I was awoken by the door slamming open, and he was standing there. Then, fortune struck, and the door opened again. In a moment of madness, I thought it was my father, but no. Israphel turned to attack the visitor, but the metal man fought wildly. Finally, Israphel retreated, and my savior was left watching over me. I called him Tin Man, and patched him back together as best I could. I never believed my brother's tales of Israphel until that night. And now, after seeing the terrible evil lurking inside Jock, I realize how real this threat is. If you see my brother, tell him I will be sailing to Icaria. He has my sword for when the final battle comes. Now you must continue your search. I see you are eager to leave. Good luck, heroes! We will meet again!
Okay.
As Simon and Lewis are leaving, they have a vision from Verrigan.
Okay. Well, that's it. Let's head off to the next great adventure. We've got one piece of the map.
What's going on? I've got deja vu. What on earth's going on?
Why is it all going all slow-mo? What the? Oh my god! Oh god, right. Whoa! Oh! Ow! Oh! Oh my goodness, this Verrigan.
Heroes, time is short. You have found a piece of my map, and by touching it, I can communicate with you. This is the future.
God, future?
The future of Minecraftia. Should you two fail in your quest, the world will be transformed into a nightmare. Oh God, it's coming this way! Quickly, run!
God's own, run! Run! God, is that Tin Man there? It's evil Tin Man. He's gone back. There's an army of evil Tin Mans.
There, that is your enemy. This future does not have to be. You can stop it. You must find my grandson, a knight called Peculiar, and help him fulfill his destiny. Unite the map pieces and stop the sand invasion, and put an end to the evil beyond the veil.
Why is the dragon flying towards?
Run away! Run away! Quick! Hurry through the portal! There is no time! Run!
Verrigan, no!
Oh.
God!
Oh God.
Do you think he'll be alright, Simon? I think he got set on fire.
When the two come back to their senses, Spacklerchuck asks Isabel if he could accompany the two heroes, and he gets the okay from Isabel. The three head back to the abandoned Mistral City to talk to Swampy Bogbeard. When they meet with Swampy, he congratulates them on finding the first fragment, and tells them the clue towards the next piece. Man in red, man in blue, underneath you'll find the clue. Spacker tells us to follow him to Stoneholm, but they soon get lost and have to follow a road. Soon a storm begins and the three find out the road was damaged. And they retreat to a big house, the Skylord Summer Retreat. We are then introduced to a new character and an old character, Umbongo, an enslaved man, and Skylord Jasper, the one who we stole the record from in Mistral City, who has had seemingly a makeover. Jasper is glad to see us alive and asks if we have any questions. When Lewis prompts him about the map fragment, he denies knowing about it. Jasper tells us that Skylord Lysander is locked in a cell in his basement for burning Mistral City. Jasper is unable to be convinced that Jock Fireblast was actually the one to blame for burning down Mistral City. Jasper then says that they should go to bed, but Simon and Lewis decide to go into the Fungeon room and find the cell that Lysander was locked in. Lysander tells us that Jasper sleeps with a key, and the heroes decide to sneak into Jasper's bedroom to find the key. However, Jasper sees Simon and asks if he wants to try his new rope with him.
Do this. You've got a diamond pick. Let's just crack open. Oh no, he's seen
No,
you. He's
Jasper,
after you.
no, no. Look, there's a terrible misunderstanding. Look, just look.
The two don't retrieve a key from his room, and they simply craft one instead to free Lysander. As they free Lysander from the cell, Jasper sees them fleeing, and Spacker and Umbongo follow them onto the ship. Jasper tries to climb up, but he fails. On the boat, Lysander tells us that they can make it to the Skyhold using planes stowed in the hull of the ship. Lysander hands out maps to anyone. Spacker and Umbongo depart for their homes, and Lysander tells us we're going to the thing on the top right of the map. The heroes retrieve the planes, and after a bit of breaking the laws of physics, the heroes and Lysander take off to Skyhold. The Skyhold is a location with 5 floating islands. 3 of the outer isles are built based on one of the 4 elements, whereas the centre is sort of a city, and the final outer isle acts as a landing dock for planes. The carnival also appears to be in the town. As they land, Lysander is stopped by Skylord Vitali, a pale Skylord, who asks why he brings outsiders to Skyhold. Lysander tells him to step aside and that he needs to speak to Skylord Amber. We learn from Vitali that Skylord Amber died and the other Skylords had vanished, leaving only him, Lysander, and Skylord Barco. This all apparently happened when the carnival arrived. Lysander tells him that he must speak with Barco instead, and Vitali lets him pass. We get to a house with Barco inside where Madame Nubescu, a fortune teller from the carnival, is stood outside. Vitali accuses her of witchcraft, which she denies. When Lysander and the heroes enter the house, they discover Barco in bed. Nubescu is telling us he's nearing the end of his life. Lewis gives him a golden apple, Nubescu tosses some dirt and pork on his face, and he awakens still laying in bed. He says the heroes must complete the Skylord tests, and then they can enter the control room. He says farewell to Lysander, who is revealed to be his grandson, then he explodes in his own blood and bones. The heroes venture into the 3 Skylord tests. They complete 2, the Trial of Fire and the Trial of Ice, before they enter the carnival, where Lewis sees a sign in Nubescu's tent that reads, Nubescu's diary, I killed Den Skylords good. But Simon doubts Nubescu is evil, since the last time they did this to Lysander, he ended up being good. The heroes jump onto the platform Nubescu is stood on and see Umbongo's cage. When asked about these problems, he says Vitali imprisoned Umbongo, and she denies that she even owns a diary in the first place. The heroes decide to help out Umbongo. When freed, he says he was trapped by a pale man, who he calls Vitali. He said he saw him by an apple tree putting some fresh bones into the ground. The heroes reunite with Lysander, and after telling them that they got a clue, they dig underneath a nearby apple tree to find a hole in the ground, leading to the graves of many Skylords. They discover a hatch into a room where Vitaly is sleeping. A sign reveals he is a vampire and he awakens. He tells us that the Dark Lord knows the power to the Skyhold. Lewis, Lysander and Simon kill Vitaly, and Lysander questions what he meant by the Skyhold's power. It's a record and tells us we need to get into the control room. Simon and Lewis finish the final Skylord test, the trial of life and death, and head up to meet Lysander again on the middle spire of the Skyhold. The heroes place down the items they received from the 3 tests and head into the control room. Once the record has been placed into the NCS system in the control room, the 3 discover that the Skyhold has a propulsion system and that it can be moved. Lysander says that if Israphel were to take the Skyhold, he would turn it into his dread fortress. Lysander decides to stay in the Skyhold to rebuild the Skylords and to protect it from the Dark Lord. But he offers his sword and the power of Skyhold for when the final battle comes. However, they don't find a map fragment in the control room. But when Simon tries to make a joke and put a TV on his head, they discover a hidden message. It's turtles all the way down, and they connect it to the turtle-shaped structure that they could see from the Trial of Ice. The heroes part ways with Lysander and adventure down to the turtle. Inside the turtle, they find a room, and inside a chest in the room, they find the second map fragment. One more to go. When they leave the turtle, Lysander greets them with some planes and tells them to fly directly south to the land of the dwarves named Stoneholm. The heroes fly away, and Lysander says his farewells. I myself feel bad for accusing him of arson now. When our heroes land in Stoneholm, they quickly update their clients to beta 1.8, and they find Spacular Chuck outside, who is locked out of Stoneholm by a new character, Cormac Darkforge, a guard of Stoneholm. Spacker reunites with the heroes, and Spacker tells us he's suspicious of the reason why he was locked out. He says that the rotting plague is a lie, as dwarves are immune to plagues. The heroes and Spacker climb the back wall of Stoneholm's entrance, and they smash through a skylight. They head down some stairs and through a hallway where they meet Rory Rockhammer, a young dwarf who swiftly tells us to hide upstairs in a small tavern, where they meet another character, Moira Magmabloom. Rory tells us there is no plague, and that Stoneholm had fallen. But just as he said that, Darkforge and the King of Stoneholm, King Finbar, come down the stairs, discussing how they saw the heroes, and they confirm to us that a portal construction is completed. Rory is called out, and in a moment of madness, Israphel appears and converts him into a zombie dwarf. After Rory's conversion, Finbar exclaims that he can feel the power of Israphel flowing through him, and he tells Darkforge to interrogate the prisoner another time, and if he doesn't speak, then he'll be killed, and Stoneholm will be burnt to the ground. The 2 leave, and Moira, Spacker, and our heroes can leave their hiding spot. Moira tells us of a stranger who arrived the previous month, who got locked in the prison. She suspects that we can free him now, considering Finbar is now busy. As the heroes are walking to the prison, they overhear Darkforge interrogating the prisoner, who is revealed to be Knight Peculiar. Darkforge goes to attack them, but the heroes kill him, and they free old Peculiar from his cell. Peculiar thanks them for freeing him, and the heroes discover Mr. Astley trapped in a bedrock cell, singing Never Gonna Give You Up. Simon tries to free him, to Peculiar and Spacker's dismay. Peculiar asks what the heroes were doing there, and they tell him that they had secured 2 map pieces and were looking for the final one. Peculiar tells us that Averigan made a deal with the dwarves, which would aid in the security of the wall, but that it got breached in the end. Spacker tells us that this is true, that he had travelled with Averigan, and he had asked the dwarves to help secure the wall and help it not to fall. Peculiar asks what kind of help the dwarves were asked for, but Spacker doesn't know. However, he says the answer may be in the Deep Core. The Deep Core is an abandoned mine shaft, sealed many years ago, but Spacker fears it may have been reopened and then he fell asleep. Moira suggests giving Peculiar and Spacker some beers to help with their fatigue. She asks us to find some gold, lava, and beer. Moira tells us that it will take too much time to brew the water. She leads us to a quarantined area and she tells us what happened to the dwarves. She says it happened slowly at first. A pale-faced man was lurking around Stoneholm, and dwarves were disappearing. Other dwarves fell ill, and King Finbar died of the plague. Unlike other dwarves, Finbar rose again with grand powers. No one could defeat Finbar, who soon enslaved all the remaining dwarves. After hearing her horrible story, the heroes venture into the sealed area, and they find tankards full of beer. Moira tells us that we will need a key, and we might have to forge one. We get back to the boys, who are now upstairs in the pub, and we give them some beers. Moira goes off to forge a key for the heroes, who have now noticed a sign over the jukebox that reads, "Diggy Diggy Hole is banned." Moira comes back upstairs with a lever and hands it to the heroes. Peculiar tells us to follow him to the deep core, and Spacker stays behind with Moira to rebuild Stoneholm and to burn the bodies of the dead dwarves. The three venture into the deep core using the key to activate a bridge across a lava pool. Upon entering, they immediately get attacked by a silverfish. Although, after venturing down the mine shaft, they find a cave filled with diamonds. Peculiar suggests making tools of the diamonds. Once protected, Peculiar tells us of the mining machines built by the dwarves. He says that Spacker told him that they could bore through bedrock itself. They discover the entrance to the deep core, and they head in. Spacker told Peculiar that the deep core was abandoned as the wall was constructed. Simon pushes a button, the lights in the deep core turn on, and the heroes get ambushed by a ton of monsters. The heroes take cover in an abandoned machine. Night Peculiar wonders why the dwarves stopped gathering the bedrock, and the heroes leave to continue their journey, but they get attacked by a giant. The heroes whack the ankles of the giant, but they eventually run away into a tunnel of dirt, and they discover a sandstone structure. The inside appears to be like an abandoned metro. A minecart track leads out of the ruins. The heroes and Peculiar take the cart out of the ruins, and they find a spire-like structure reaching up to a rift. A man is firing fireballs from the structure towards our heroes. However, he shortly disappears. The heroes discover that this is the power source on the wall, and that it had been attacked. Lewis discovers some signs, a message from Verrigan.
To those that find this, I, Verrigan, have made hard decisions to protect this world. This is one of them. To defend this land from a terrible evil, this machine has been activated. The machine that awoke the sand god in the first place. Now, through the wall, it keeps him chained. If it should fail again, the world is surely doomed. This facility is hidden from view. The only way in is beneath the deep core, which will be sealed forever. But if you are reading this, then something has gone wrong. If the world is not yet burning, it is only a matter of time. But there is a glimmer of hope, and if you are pure of heart, then maybe you can do what I could not. You must take this map piece and unite it with the others, then seek out the evil at its source. Good luck, Verrigan. Kiss.
Thank you, Verrigan. Thank you.
Once the cutscene had ended, Simon opens a chest and finds the final map fragment. Peculiar suggests we return to Templar Dathan. He is wise and would be able to put the map together. The wall's energy source needed to be reactivated, and after the heroes retrieve a redstone torch from the tank, they go and reactivate the wall's energy source, but an anomaly is reported and the heroes climb up the spire. At the top of the spire, the heroes enter a portal. On the other side, the three heroes find King Finbar, who tells us we are too late. He had already awakened the Dark Master. Peculiar demands to know where Daisy is, but Finbar tells us she'll make a good meal for the Dark God. Peculiar becomes enraged at this thought, and he kills Finbar. Peculiar is convinced that it's too late to save Daisy Duke. However, he sees a sign saying 3 days until full operation. He thinks on it. Would it be possible to cross half the world, seal away an ancient god, nothing but a sword and a broken map, in only 3 days? And Simon gives Peculiar some words of encouragement, and the heroes soon convince him that we must continue. Soon enough, after running through random hallways, they discover an unlit portal. Peculiar tells us to light it, and on the other side of the portal, they end up beyond the wall, at a new location named Last Watch Hold. Like Verrigan's Hold, Last Watch Hold is a location built by the Templars, including Carpath and Verrigan. However, unlike Verrigan's Hold, Last Watch had been buried in the evil sands. Peculiar tells us that Last Watch was one of the most important war bastions. But now the entire city it was in is now buried under the sands. He says that if the spread of the sands is not halted, the whole world would end up like Last Watch, and thousands will suffocate under the sand. Peculiar tells us he must rest, but will tell his story.
You have done what I could not. You have united the fragments of the map. I am sorry for keeping this story from you, and you deserve to know it. Ever since Daisy was taken from me, I have felt different. My heart is like broken glass in my chest, but I have new strength and also an understanding. To tell you in full, I must start at the beginning. My sister and I never knew our parents, not really. Our father was a city guard of Mistral, and he was often away defending the town. Our mother I can only remember in flashes. Dark-haired, kind, loving. It was one fateful night that everything changed. I was only 4 years old, and all I can remember is rain, lightning, and a terrible pale face. He took our mother from us that night, into whatever dark place he inhabits, and then, soon after, my father left us too. Adathan raised us well, but I was forever haunted by that pale face and vowed to find out what had happened to my parents. I travelled the length of the wall and asked at each of the 7 great wall bastions, and I slowly learned the story of Verrigan Antioch and how he had sacrificed himself to save Minecraftia, and his son Carpath, who had mysteriously vanished after setting up the Templars. But as the years passed and the trail grew cold, I learned less and less, and I began to be held in the grip of paralyzing nightmares. I found myself growing weaker and weaker. Finally, wearied and old before my time, unable to even hold a sword, I fled to the tiny village of Terravale to hide away as a lowly innkeep. There, unexpectedly, my life turned around for the first time. I fell in love with a blacksmith, and, for a time, the nights were not as cold. But I could not escape my past. Before long, people started disappearing from the tiny town. The nightmares returned, worse than ever, and I started losing hours, sometimes days. Daisy grew distant from me, and I grew paranoid that I was being controlled by him. I made the most cowardly decision I had ever made, to end my wretched life. I brewed a potent poison, but before I could drink it, you arrived. At first, I thought to poison you both instead, so frantic was my paranoia. But I knew enough to understand that your hearts were not shrouded by the pale-faced man's power. Instead, I helped you as I could to rid Terravale of the corruption. But just as my spirit was returning, something so terrible happened that my heart shattered like ice. Daisy was gone! He had taken her, just as he had taken my mother. And then I understood. I understood everything. My mind was clear. Until then, I'd hated my father for leaving us, but now I felt what he felt. He too had lost the love of his life to the darkness. Since then, I have been different. I have understood what drove my father and what is worth dying for. I guided you to Mistral City, but my weakness returned on the journey, and you saved my life a second time by seeking out the wizard Fumblemore for a potion that would return my strength. You risked your lives and dignity trying to get the ingredients and shamed me for my cowardice. But it did not end there. You helped me recover my father's blade, venturing deep into the catacombs under Mistral, battling spiders side by side. When we uncovered my father's note, I felt immense sadness, but also great purpose. My father was dead, but I could avenge him by seeking out the portals of Israphel and shut them down, lest the taint spread to all that is good in this world. I knew I had to see a Dathan, and that is where I left you, amidst the burning ruins of Mistral. I do not know what you found in the depths of the crumbling ruin, save one thing: a fatal blow to the enemy's plan, the first fragment of the strange map. I sought a Dathan at Verrigan's Hold, but the news was little better than the sight of Mistral City burning. It was under siege by the undead. I fought alongside a Dathan, but hearing the wall had been breached, set off immediately, leaving a Dathan instructions to send you my way when he found you. The wall was damaged badly. I had barely begun to make sense of how it happened when I was beset upon by the creatures of the night. I took refuge in an abandoned guard tower to tend to my wounds while I awaited your return. I'm sure you well remember the battle at the breach and all that followed, so I shall not recount that part of the tale again now. After, while you sought additional fragments of the map, I travelled to Icaria in search for Fumblemore, the only person old enough to remember the construction of the wall. Fortunately, he'd escaped Mistral in one piece, though there was little to say for his tower. He told me of the pact Verrigan made with the dwarves, and I travelled immediately to Stonehold and was captured by the corrupted dwarves. Good effort. They held me for days before you arrived, but I had remained vigilant. Finally, I heard familiar voices, and at long last you had found me. You told me of your adventures with the Sky Lords and your successful mission to Skyhold to retrieve the second map fragment. I'm glad that Lysander is well, and that the help of the Sky Lords is with us. You also told me of your encounter with the pirates of Barbecue Bay, and your journey to the treasure hold, the Grimjaw Slugface. The passages through the deep core were some of the most harrowing I'd ever experienced, but we finally found a way through an active portal and defeated King Finbar, but not before he could awaken an ancient god that should have been sealed away forever. The situation is worse than ever. The world is on the verge of being suffocated in sand, and we are the only ones who can stop it. But entering the desert here will do us no good.
Peculiar tells us to return through the portal and to find another. The heroes venture through and they realise the way they came had been blocked with lava. The heroes walked down a hallway and ended up at a minecart track. Taking the rail, they end up falling into a room full of pigmen. Lewis attacks them, which Salmon gets mad at. Once defeated, Lewis notices the amount of explosions has increased, and Peculiar finds a half-working portal. Heading through, they end up in an underground metal building. One room is labelled Nubescu's Room for Depowdering of Me Face, and they also find Bruno's secret stash, where they discover an invisible pickaxe, which is how Strongman Bruno, a circus strongman from Carnival de Banjo, cheated in a carnival game back before the heroes went looking for the map. The heroes find a ladder. Up the ladder is a secret passage and another ladder buried in sand. Once they've dug themselves out, they find Verrigan's hold buried in sand. The heroes rush to the main building of Verrigan's hold to see if Adathan is alright. They find him in his private bedroom. Peculiar discovers he is burning with fever and that they need to pour water on his face. Once water has been poured onto his face, Adathan seems to be confused. Peculiar tells him he's safe and that Verrigan's has fallen. He says that he wants to die, that we should run far and never look back, and without the map, the world is doomed. However, Peculiar tells him that the heroes have the map fragments, and he confirms that it is the map. He uses gaffer tape to combine the map. Once combined, the image showed an X marking a spot, a river, and some ice cream-looking rock formations, noted by Lewis. After Adathan combined the map, he showed the heroes and Peculiar the last letter Carpath left before his death.
This is a letter that Carpath left me before he died.
Oh, right, okay. Do you want to read it out? Oh, okay.
Little brother, I leave you this note in secret, as you may never see me again. My fears about a darker evil are true. I have changed my name to Peculiar, and under the guise of a city guard, I have infiltrated a cult. Tonight, I halt the corruption at its source. If I should fail, then terrible events will proceed quickly, and you must be ready. The sand will flow from the desert, devouring everything. You must recover my map from the hidden places, then travel to the spider tree.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I really am.
From there, seek the tomb of our ancestors, and do what must be done. I have left Isabel and young Verrigan in the care of Granny Bacon.
Oh no, Granny Bacon!
If I do not return, and if the sand remains calm, then we have won, and you can rebuild the world in peace. My last request is that you never tell my children of my fate, and of the terrible burden of our family bloodline. May the sand never dull your blade, brother.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I am sorry to have kept this from you, nephew. Is this true? Yes. Your true name is Verrigan Antioch. And you?
Soon, the heroes and Peculiar take their own hot air balloons to the spider tree. At the spider tree, they find a map to the Templar Tower. And in the tower, they discover another map, leading to a metal hand. Underneath the metal hand, the trio learn that a Templar named Enoch discovered the metal ruin, and was investigating why most of the sands originated from it. Soon they find out that Enoch went mad, tearing his bones out of his body and beginning to write his logs in his own blood. They also realize that they had entered a sentinel, an evil robot who was buried underneath the sands. But as they attempted to escape via a three-way train track, Night Peculiar unfortunately falls to his death in the radioactive pit below the tracks. The heroes continue down the sentinel ruins, having a toast towards old Peculiar after his death, as well as accidentally creating 2 Honeydew clones. They discover a character named Professor Webley trapped in a cloning vat and help him out of the ruin. He recognizes the heroes, and he tells us that the Carpath map leads to the tomb of the Templar Kings. As the heroes are leaving the ruin, Webley asks them to find a healer for him, and he tells his story to the heroes.
When the sands began to cover Last Watch, we ventured out to investigate the desert. We thought it would tell us how to stop the sand. But what we uncovered was far more terrible. The sand is simply a defense system put in place to keep these terrible machines rusted and broken. If they ever awaken, then the world is surely doomed. The Templars defeated the machines before, and with your map, we can discover how they managed to do it. Anyway, you must hurry. Time is short.
Okay, Webley.
Simon and Lewis leave Webley in the head of a ruined sentinel. Webley warns that the cactus forest is dangerous and tells the heroes that they should venture past the dragon skeleton. They discover a ruined boat with a new character named Shiplord Hubert, a French pirate. We learn he got swept up by a whirlpool while sailing and somehow ended up in the desert. The new trio follow Map 2, the one they discovered in the tower, and along the way they discover the railway Peculiar died in, but the sands had fallen through, destroying the tracks below. They walk past a pit and discover an oasis, and inside the oasis was Swampy Bogbeard. Swampy tells us that a secret grove of plants was ruined during a spirit journey he was going on. The heroes defend Swampy as he heals the grove. When the grass regrows and the canopy is restored, Shiplord Hubert says his goodbyes, and Swampy gives Lewis some healing herbs and a pipe for Professor Webley. Swampy offers his animals for a swifter journey. Hubert comes back to give the heroes shiplord licenses just in case they meet some other shiplords. Part 42 ends with Simon and Lewis walking into the forest, looking for Swampy's animals. Shadow of Israphel Part 43 was expected to release over 8 years ago, on Friday the 3rd of August 2012, due to a weekly schedule that they had imposed in Part 39. However, it did not release on that day, and proceeded to not release on the Fridays after, and to this day, we are still waiting. The series itself is not confirmed to have been cancelled, rather it is currently on hiatus for the foreseeable future. This section will cover things that we know about Shadow of Israphel Part 43, and what we hope for the episode. A question asked during the Yogs on Tour I-52, will Yogscast return to vanilla Minecraft, is answered by Shin with Minecraft is always changing. Every patch adds on to the vanilla game, so we wouldn't rule it out. Another question, where's Shadow of Israphel, is answered by Terps with Shadow of Israphel is still going and stretches over many series and is like Lost, in the way that it started really good and then got a bit confusing. When it's the right time and we have enough resources, it will return, confirming that Shadow of Israphel will return. During Jungle Jam 2018, Lewis and Tom B showed us an animation intended to be used as an opening in Shadow of Israphel Part 43.
Instead of this mad animatic. So the most recent version he sent us was a year later.
It's still like got rough animations and stuff.
Okay, we're just gonna leave this here, all right? Okay.
Twisted by my wall.
big flying battle forces. And that's explosions. And that was like, well, use your imagination, guys. That's like Bumblemore and Swampy like fighting him like little flies, getting like eaten. And that's like firing all of its guns and stuff. So he's got like a big chest laser, all sorts of stuff.
A theory why Part 43 was never released is that they invested so much time and effort into this animation that we just watched that they thought they needed to finish the animation before they could release the next part of the series. Predicted release dates by fans are the 10th anniversary of Multiplayer Survival Part 1, December 2nd, 2020, the 10th anniversary of Shadow of Israphel Part 42, July 27th, 2022, or the 20th anniversary of the Yogscast, the 8th of July 2028. However, the episode may not release on these days and could release any time or never at all. I hope that one day Shadow of Israphel gets what it deserves, a true ending.